Arnold Schwarzenegger is a unique individual, and as he plays out his twilight years, he can undoubtedly look back at an extraordinary journey that most of us could only ever dream of. Regardless of your thoughts of the man, few have had such a profound and enduring impact on shaping popular culture as the iconic Arnold. But as another superhero once remarked, you either die a hero or live long enough to see yourself become the villain. And in recent years, a large part of the long-time Arnold base has soured on things said and done in the increasingly contentious cultural wars. Fearing nothing more than his own irrelevancy, the significance of the theme song, Everybody Wants to Live Forever, extends far beyond the movie Pumping Iron. In Arnold's case, it's been his driving force for the past half-century, propelling him to astonishing heights in order to leave an indelible mark on the public consciousness. There's been a considerable amount of books, documentaries and articles already dedicated to exploring the complexity of Arnold's storied life. Schwarzenegger's last update to his own biographical resume was the book Total Recall, released more than a decade prior. So this 3-part Netflix series serves not only as an overdue image reboot, but also a means to connect the new generation to a narrative the man seemingly doesn't want forgotten. Similar to how the conveniently timed documentary Raw Ryan foreshadowed his upcoming run for the governorship, this new series is part of the sudden flurry of activity at Schwarzenegger Inc., designed to revive a legacy on life support. Ever the chess player and never the chess piece, Arnold's astute enough to recognise Netflix as this era's chief platform of propaganda dissemination. This docudrama follows hard on the heels of the release of his new Netflix series aptly titled Fubar, his appointment to the bizarrely named Netflix Chief Action Officer, an upcoming book project that looks like a mashup of Tony Robbins meets Jordan Peterson, and a ghost-written fitness email blitzkrieg bombarding our collective inboxes each morning. And while most Hollywood heroes are content to close out their careers walking off into the sunset, you gotta respect Arnold's hustle and drive to regroup the dying embers of his waning celebrity spotlight. As an aside, I would have thought that after 50 years in showbiz, Arnold would have possessed the ability to discern a decent movie script by now. The movie Sisu, for example, would have been the perfect fit for him, and the ultimate irony. But instead he greenlights the god-awful Fubar in another squandered opportunity to jumpstart an ever-declining movie career. But regarding the merits of this documentary, the all-important question is, does this series provide a good understanding of who Arnold really is? And for me, the answer is a definite no. The first part focusing on Arnold's childhood and bodybuilding career was my obvious favourite. The production values and stylized reenactments were great. I love the snippets of interviews from Waller, Zane, Albert Busek and Charles Gaines. The inclusion of new footage and photographs was the highlight for me. I remember watching the outtakes in the follow-up documentary Raw Ryan 10 years after I first watched Pumping Iron, and I was equally mesmerised seeing these new clips. And as fans of golden era bodybuilding, you gotta be disappointed at the goldmine of footage still left unseen. I can only imagine how much valuable material is still hidden in those archives. Seeing what was shown only whet my appetite for more. And this is a perfectly apt metaphor for the entire documentary as a whole. Just like that 100 plus hours of Pumping Iron footage, Arnold reveals only what he wants us to see, and we never really get any more than a surface level presentation of his true life story. It's a whistle-stop tour with only brief visits of major life events, like the death of his brother Meinhard, or the box office failure of Last Action Hero. But in typical Arnold fashion, he shrugs them off with a puff of his stogie and the usual cliché platitudes. For example, we get the full rundown of his bodybuilding career, complete with those cute little passport stamps, but for some reason the 1980s comeback is conveniently omitted. He doesn't use the N-word in reference to his father, who he throws under the bus numerous times in the first episode. Putting as much distance from the man as he can muster, he wistfully insinuates that perhaps he was the product of a liaison between his mother and a stationed post-war USGI, which is about as disrespectful as you can get short of naming your dog after your dad, which he also did. And there are a number of other important points that Arnold has revised or omitted that deserve their own reaction video. Arnold can't help but insert another dig at the Donald in his seemingly protracted battle with Trump derangement syndrome. For all his stoic rhetoric and grandstanding, he can never let go of past slights or being upstaged, and I thought it was a weak and irrelevant insertion. More than anything, the series shows that Arnold is a perfect metaphor for what it takes to be a winner in a modern capitalist society. Driven by image and married to his ambition, he will literally say or do anything to win the spotlight. Likewise, Arnold's narration throughout this entire series is scripted, rehearsed, and stage managed for effect. His words ring artificial and insincere, devoid of any emotional resonance. I can only imagine the numerous takes designed to capture that perfectly delivered soundbite for each section. We never really get Arnold's story raw and uncut, but rather a highly edited, biased, and manicured version of it. There's a disingenuousness about statements like how he always thought that he looked like shit posing in the mirror. It's an attempt to reveal a vulnerability that I don't believe has ever existed, as well as a relatability that's both contrived and manipulative. Now, I hate to employ that overused amateur diagnostic term narcissism or psychopath, but if you run the checklist against a careful examination of Arnold's words and deeds, you'll discover he ticks the boxes. So we're left with the feeling that, just like in Pumping Iron, we're once again witnessing Arnold playing up the character of Arnold. Only this time it's an act aimed at conning the audience in the ultimate psych-out. Arnold's is a life that could have had its own 10-part series, and the length of this was such that the viewer walks away thinking that they've learned something about the man's life. But as one reviewer has put it, it's basically 3 hours of Arnold reading his Wikipedia page, and sadly those 3 hours are mostly all pump with minimal substance. The series of course shies away from almost anything controversial, except for those moments that convey Arnold in a positive light as a result of overcoming some obstacle. Bereft of any real hard probing, his failures and foibles are used as a smokescreen to humanise and appease modern sensibilities. In the end, we have a documentary that's sanitised, safe, and highly airbrushed. It's a product rolling off the Netflix paint-by-numbers assembly line with the sole purpose to entertain the masses, rather than elicit anything resembling deep thought or exploration. Again and again, we're presented with Arnold the archetype. We get Arnold the salesman displaying his features, never the flaws. We see Arnold the bodybuilder showing only his best angles, minus his weak points. We get Arnold the actor, the stage-managed production minus the outtakes. And of course, Arnold the political compilation, his greatest hits without the misfires. It's an opaque revisionist history at its core, and true lies at its essence. What Arnold chooses to omit speaks volumes more than what he chooses to reveal. It's truly sad and ironic that Pumping Iron remains perhaps the most genuine and truthful depiction of Arnold Schwarzenegger that we've seen thus far. Prior to the Hollywood manipulation, the public relations bullshit machine, and the ongoing retroactive fictionalization of his life's narrative, as George Butler once noted, we've lost sight of that real, authentic Arnold after that film. In short, I was hoping for something more than what this series delivers. Many of us love Arnold, and no one can argue that his story isn't extremely inspiring. But it would be nice to someday watch a well-researched and executed project that doesn't have the stranglehold of his fingerprints all over it like this one does. As I mentioned before, this series was created to entertain, and it does just that. It's an enjoyable, greatest hits rendition of Arnold's life and accomplishments. But don't expect anything less than an overly polished and overtly biased hagiography. As for the target audience of this documentary, Arnold apologists, undying fanboys, and clueless noobs will no doubt love it. It's the perfect switch-off-your-mind junk food item that's stock and trade at the Netflix menu. Just watch the pretty pictures and don't ask any questions. But for someone wanting a little more meat on the bones, this will no doubt leave you hungry for more. And while Arnold opines to be remembered for thousands of years like Jesus, I can't help but recall the poem of Ozymandias, which conveys the idea that even the most powerful and influential figures, especially those with a disproportionate sense of their own self-importance, will eventually be forgotten or reduced to insignificance with the passing face of time. So what did you think of Arnold's new documentary? Please let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And please support my work with a like and subscribe for more Golden Era content. Thanks for watching.